The sun in Lagos that afternoon was not smiling. It was boiling with the anger of a landlord who had chased 5 tenants at once. Heat bounced on zinc rooftops, roasted pepper sellers in the open market, and made even stubborn goats run into the shade. Welcome to Nigerian Folktales, home of dramatic, funny, educating, and touching stories. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to join the family today. Let's know where you are watching from in the comments section. Amid all the chaos, the market was still alive. Hawkers dragging their wares like their life depended on it. Conductors dangling from buses and screaming like they owned Lagos, and Okada riders insulting each other with the energy of professional wrestlers. At one corner of the market sat Ngozi, the woman everybody called Mama Rice. She was in her early 30s, tall, slim, with bright white teeth that shone anytime she laughed. And laugh she did, all the time. Her laughter was her weapon of survival. Business was hard, but she used humor to draw customers. Her stall was humble. A wooden table, 3 benches, 2 big pots balanced on coal stoves, and a small umbrella that looked tired of standing in the sun. From her pots came the smell of hot stew, fried plantain, and beans. It was the smell that pulled people from far and near. Ngozi was dishing rice for one customer when she noticed him again. That same young man who had been hanging around for 2 weeks. He was always there. Not every hour, not every day, but just enough for her to notice. Tall, broad-shouldered, fine like one of those men in a toothpaste advert, but always carrying himself like somebody hiding from the world. Today, he wore a sky blue shirt that had clearly been washed too many times, the color almost running away. His slippers looked like they had seen the Civil War and survived. His eyes told a story, the story of hunger mixed with pride. He stood across the stall, pretending to just pass, but his gaze was locked on the pot of beans like a man hypnotized. His lips moved slightly as though he was counting the grains of rice inside. Ngozi wiped her hands on her wrapper and called out, "My brother, stop pretending, Jare. This your eyes don't already eat 2 plates." The young man quickly shifted, embarrassed. No, I just day look road." She laughed so loudly that even the next stall turned to watch. "Road ko? Since when road day inside pot of beans? A beg, if na road you day find, go by compass. But here, na food day." Some of her customers burst out laughing. One man drinking Coke almost choked. Ngozi shook her head, scooped a big spoon of rice and beans, poured stew that sizzled, and added 2 slices of fried plantain for decoration. She pushed the plate forward. "Take, eat before you faint, and people will now accuse me of murder." The young man froze. His pride whispered, "Don't collect it. You're not a beggar." His hunger shouted louder, "Collect it before this woman changes her mind." As if on cue, his stomach betrayed him with a loud growl that echoed like a drum. Everyone in the stall laughed, clapping their hands. "Chai! Brothers, your bell don't expose you," one man teased. Red-faced, the young man finally collected the plate. "Thank you. I'll pay you back, I promise." Ngozi placed her hands on her waist and gave him a look. "Pay me back? With what? Will you wash plates?" "Don't worry, I'll give you free training. Your soft Ajibo hands will finally learn market work." Laughter erupted again. Even the boy selling pure water giggled. The young man sat on the bench quietly and attacked the food like a soldier at war. His spoon moved fast. His eyes closed once in a while as if tasting heaven. In less than 5 minutes, the plate was empty. He even licked the spoon. Ngozi stared at him, amazed. "Aha! My brother, na competition you day do? Who day pursue you? Even my goat no day eat this fast." He chuckled, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. For the first time in weeks, he smiled genuinely. His teeth were white, his dimples deep, and his face looked younger. "Honestly," he said softly, "thank you. I needed this." Ngozi eyed him suspiciously. He didn't look like a typical broke man. His English was too polished. His fingers had no calluses. His back was too straight for someone who carried load at the market. But here he was, eating free food like a man rescued from famine. "What's your name?" she asked, leaning forward. "Daniel," he replied. "Okay, Daniel. From today, you are my new customer. Whether you pay or not, your seat is here. If hunger catch you, come here. But if you try to do shock era, I'll personally flog you with my cooking spoon." Daniel laughed, and that laughter sounded rusty, like it hadn't been used in a long time. That afternoon, while the market shouted and Lagos danced its usual madness, a strange bond began at a wooden stall between a poor food seller and a man pretending to be broke. What Ngozi didn't know was that Daniel was not ordinary. He was the only son of Chief Ade, a billionaire CEO whose companies covered half of Lagos. But Daniel had run away from home after a brutal fight with his father. He wanted freedom. He wanted to taste life outside Golden Gates. And life, with its wicked sense of humor, had led him straight into the pot of a poor woman with a loud laugh and a kind heart. From that first free plate, Daniel became a regular face at Ngozi's food stall. At first, he came timidly, almost as if sneaking in, but gradually he became part of the scene like the pots of stew or the wooden benches. Ngozi didn't mind. In fact, she enjoyed teasing him. Every day, Daniel tried to pay for food. Sometimes he had 200 Nigerian nairas, sometimes 100 Nigerian nairas, sometimes nothing at all. And whenever he insisted on paying, Ngozi found a way to shame his stubbornness with humor. One morning, Daniel placed 500 Nigerian nairas on the table for a plate of rice. Ngozi stared at the money as if it was counterfeit. Oga Daniel, who dash you this kind big man money? Abi FCC is looking for you." The customers burst into laughter. Daniel rolled his eyes. "It's just 500 Nigerian nairas." Ngozi pushed 300 Nigerian nairas back into his palm. "Carry your balance. My food is cheap, not your pride. I cannot let you use one small rice to go broke. You hear?" Daniel shook his head, laughing. "You're impossible." "Thank you. I accept the compliment," she replied dramatically, adjusting her wrapper. The crowd at the stall laughed again. By now, they all knew. Once this boy and Ngozi started talking, it was free comedy show. But Daniel's guilt was growing. He didn't like eating for free. So one day, he announced proudly, "Ngozi, today I'll work for my food." Ngozi eyed him suspiciously. "Work? You? Oga, don't spoil my day. You look like person way day faint when he sees broom." Daniel ignored her, rolled up his sleeves, and started washing plates. At first, he managed well. 3 plates, clean and shining. The customers even clapped for him. But on the 4th plate, tragedy struck. The soapy plate slipped, flew in the air, and landed on the ground with a loud KPA. Ngozi screamed, holding her head. "Blood of Jesus! My plate! This boy wants to scatter my business." Everyone at the stall exploded in laughter. One man shouted, "Brothers, just stick to eating food. Leave work for professionals." Daniel scratched his head, embarrassed but smiling. "I'll pay for it." Ngozi wagged her finger. "Pay for what? With which money? Beg, sit down. From today, your only job here is to eat and look handsome. Leave the rest for us." The whole stall roared with laughter again. Daniel raised his hands in surrender. "Fine, but next time, I'll try again." "God forbid!" Ngozi shouted, making the crowd laugh harder. Another day, Lagos rain descended like a thief. Within minutes, the entire market was chaos. Traders scrambled to cover their goods with nylon. Hawkers ran. Customers dashed into any available shade. Ngozi quickly tried to cover her pots. Daniel rushed to help. The rain beat them mercilessly as they fought to save the food. Finally, they squeezed under a tiny umbrella that was too small for even one person. They ended up drenched, laughing like children. Ngozi dragged him into her small shack behind the stall. The zinc roof leaked water into rusty buckets. A wet mosquito net hung in one corner. Daniel sat on the floor, hair dripping, and laughed at his soaked shirt. "You see why I wear old clothes," he said. "If I wore designer like your customers, this rain would have finished me." Ngozi laughed, adjusting her wrapper tightly. Rain is the great equalizer. Rich or poor, we all drip the same. There was a moment of silence. Daniel stared at her. The strength in her eyes, the way she laughed at her own suffering. It touched something inside him. "You're different," he said quietly. Ngozi frowned playfully. "Different how?" "Because I can cook beans and still crack joke." He smiled but didn't answer. For the first time since he left his father's mansion, Daniel felt at peace. But markets have eyes, ears, and very sharp tongues. Soon, the whispers began. "Have you noticed that fine boy always hanging around Mama Rice? He doesn't work, doesn't school, he just day chop." Another voice added, She has found herself one fine but broke man. At least he has looks. That one alone can fill stomach." Ngozi heard the gossip. Sometimes she laughed it off. Sometimes it stung. But when she looked at Daniel, the way he tried to help, the way he smiled shyly, the way he thanked her for even small things, she ignored the noise. At night, Daniel lay awake in the small room he rented with his last savings. His mattress was thin, his fan noisy, and his stomach still hungry. But his mind kept going back to Ngozi's laughter. He thought of his father's mansion. Marble floors, chandeliers, servants everywhere. Yet it felt cold, like a prison. He had run away after the last fight with his father. Chief Ade wanted him to take over the family empire, to sit in boardrooms, wear suits, and command people like a king. But Daniel wanted freedom. He wanted to discover himself without the weight of his surname. So he shaved his fancy haircut, wore simple clothes, and vanished into the city. For the first time in his life, he tasted hunger, dust, and insults. And then he met Ngozi, the poor woman who fed him, laughed with him, and treated him like a normal person. Not like the heir of Ade Holdings. For Daniel, her shack became home. For Ngozi, Daniel became a secret friend she didn't fully understand. She had no idea that the man she was feeding was the son of one of the most powerful billionaires in Nigeria. But Lagos, with its sharp eyes and sharp mouth, was waiting. And when Lagos finally opened its mouth, the whole market would shake. The bond between Ngozi and Daniel had grown like firewood flames. Slowly at first, then suddenly, it became warmth they couldn't ignore. They weren't lovers, not yet. But the way Daniel's eyes followed her when she laughed, and the way her voice softened when she said his name, people could see something brewing. And if there is one thing Lagos markets love more than selling pepper, it is gossip. One Thursday morning, as Ngozi bent over her pot of beans, she heard two women hissing behind her. Siam. Shidon turned charity organization. That Daniel boy has never dropped one full payment for food. He's just here chopping life. The other woman replied with venom. My sister. Na love be that. She day use food tie him down. Later we'll hear wedding bells. From Mama Rice to Mrs. Broke Boy. They cackled loudly, making sure Ngozi heard. Ngozi looked up sharply. Ehen! Instead of minding your stale pepper, you are minding my customer? If Daniel is broke, Nami go suffer it, not you. A beg face your fish. The women rolled their eyes and hissed, but the crowd at the stall burst out laughing. Daniel kept his head down, eating quietly, but his shoulders stiffened. Pride was burning him. When the women left, Ngozi turned to Daniel. Don't mind them. Some people's joy comes only from mocking others. Daniel gave a small smile, though guilt pressed his chest. If only she knew the truth. 2 weeks later, Daniel arrived at the stall looking like a shadow of himself. His steps were slow, his forehead shone with sweat, and his usually bright eyes were dull. Ngozi dropped her spoon instantly. "Hey, what happened to you? You look like leftover yam." Daniel chuckled weakly. "I'm fine. Just tired." "Fine? This one not fine? I beg sit down before you collapse on top my beans." He sat, coughing lightly. Ngozi fetched a stool and pressed her hand to his neck. "Huh, you are burning. You have malaria." Daniel shook his head. "It's nothing. I'll be okay." Ngozi glared at him. "Will you shut up? Even mosquito is stronger than you right now." "Wait!" She dashed out, leaving her stall to her neighbor, and returned minutes later with drugs from the chemist, and a small flask of pepper soup she had borrowed goat meat to prepare. That night, she sat by him in his tiny one-room, fanning him while he sweated under a thin wrapper. She fed him spoon by spoon, even scolding him playfully. "Open your mouth, I beg. Don't behave like stubborn goat. Swallow and rest. You think I enjoy wasting my meat on you?" Daniel's eyes watered, not from fever, but from the shock of her care. No maid in his father's mansion had ever treated him this gently, not even with all their salaries. "Why are you doing this?" he whispered. Ngozi shrugged. "Because you need help. If I wait to know everything about you before helping, half of Lagos will die." He turned his face away so she wouldn't see the tears brimming in his eyes. 3 days later, the market saw a drama that would become gossip for months. Ngozi was frying plantain while Daniel sat fanning the firewood. Suddenly, the noise of engines filled the air. A black Prado Jeep rolled in, followed by 2 Hilux trucks. Their tires splashed mud as they stopped right in front of Ngozi's stall. The whole market went silent. Even the goats stopped bleeding. From the jeeps, men in black suits jumped out, their sunglasses shining. They looked like FBI agents dropped into Ojalegba by mistake. One barked, "Where is he?" Before anyone could answer, 2 of them rushed Daniel. Ngozi screamed, dropping her frying spoon. "Hey, what's happening? Leave him alone!" The men ignored her, dragging Daniel toward the jeep. Daniel's face was blank with shock. He didn't fight, but his eyes flicked to Ngozi's, filled with shame, as though saying, "I'm sorry. Bring him back." Ngozi shouted, waving her frying spoon like a weapon. "At least let him finish fanning my firewood. He's not done." The men bundled him into the Prado and slammed the door. Within seconds, the convoy zoomed off, raising dust that blinded half the market. Ngozi coughed in the dust cloud, still shouting, "Thieves! Kidnappers! Somebody call police!" But the jeeps were gone. As soon as silence returned, the tongues began. "Aha! We said it!" One woman shouted. "That boy was a criminal. See how police carried him." Another chimed in. "Didn't I warn you, Ngozi? You were feeding a thief. Now they've caught him." Ngozi's chest heaved. "Thief? Daniel? You people talk too much. If he stole anything, let thunder strike me here." But deep inside, fear twisted her stomach. Who were those men? Why had they come for Daniel like that? 2 days later, while Ngozi was sweeping her stall, she heard the familiar voice of a newspaper vendor shouting headlines. "Extra! Extra! Billionaire CEO's missing son finally found. Daniel Ade, son of Chief Ade of Ade Holdings, rescued after weeks of disappearance." Ngozi froze. Her broom slipped from her hand. She rushed to the vendor, snatched a paper, and there it was, Daniel's face on the front page. But not the Daniel she knew. This Daniel was clean-cut, wearing a suit and tie, smiling like a prince. The caption screamed, "The lost heir returns." Ngozi's knees weakened. She clutched the paper, her mouth wide. "So, all this while, I was feeding Billionaire's son. The market went mad. Did we not say it? No wonder they carried him in Prado. Mama Rice, you are sharp. See how you hooked yourself a billionaire's son with beans. Another mocked. She thought she was feeding a pauper. She was unknowingly running a billionaire's canteen. Ngozi's cheeks burned with shame. She ignored the laughter, the stares, the pointing fingers. She staggered back to her stall, dropped the newspaper, and sat down, staring blankly. Her chest hurt. Her eyes stung. She whispered bitterly to herself. So he lied to me all this time. He used me like play. I thought he was real. I thought. Her voice broke. That night, she lay awake in her small shack, hugging her knees. Every laugh they had shared now felt like a trick. Every plate she had served now looked like charity to a man who could buy the whole market with one phone call. Her heart cracked in two. Had Daniel been mocking her all along? Was she just a poor fool in one rich man's drama? The market was still buzzing with gossip days after Daniel's disappearance. Some traders swore they had always known he was a big man Pekin. Others insisted Ngozi had been acting smart, deliberately investing her food in him. The rumor was sweet for their mouths, but bitter for Ngozi's ears. She ignored them, but inside she was boiling. Her chest carried one question like a heavy load. Why didn't he tell me? One hot afternoon, as Ngozi was serving rice to customers, the market suddenly went quiet again. This time, no jeeps, no convoy, no bodyguards. Just one sleek black Mercedes slowly gliding through the dusty road like a shark in shallow water. The door opened, and out stepped Chief Ade, Daniel's father. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a gbada so white it almost blinded people, he looked like money personified. 2 bodyguards flanked him. Market women gasped and whispered as if Jesus himself had descended. Ngozi's knees weakened. What is this again? Chief Ade stopped at her stall. He looked around briefly, then spoke in a deep voice. You are Ngozi? She swallowed hard. Why, yes, sir. I am Chief Ade, Daniel's father. The market erupted. Some women clapped. Others muttered. Mama Rice is finished. Rich man has come to arrest her for deceiving his son. But then, something unexpected happened. Chief Ade's face softened. Thank you for feeding my son when he was lost. Ngozi blinked. He nodded slowly. I don't know why he chose to run away, but I know you cared for him when he had nothing. For that, I am grateful. Ngozi's mouth hung open. She had prepared for insults, disgrace, maybe even handcuffs. But gratitude? That was a surprise plot twist. As if the drama wasn't enough, another car door opened. Out stepped Daniel. But not the Daniel she knew. This Daniel was clean-shaven, in a tailored suit, polished shoes shining, wristwatch glittering like a small sun. He looked like the man in the newspaper, like royalty. Ngozi's chest tightened. For a moment, she didn't breathe. Their eyes met. His lips parted, but no words came out. He looked both relieved and guilty, like a schoolboy caught copying exam answers. Ngozi crossed her arms. Her eyes were sharp. Oh ho! So now you've remembered my stall? Oga Billionaire, welcome. Should I bring china plates for you? Or will my wooden spoon disgrace your mouth? The market burst into laughter. Even Chief Ade's bodyguards tried to hide smiles. Daniel stepped closer, his voice soft. Ngozi, I'm sorry. She raised her chin. Sorry for what? For lying? For eating my food while your father's house has fridge full of meat? Or for making me look like moo-moo in front of market women? Her voice cracked. She didn't mean to sound so hurt, but the pain was leaking through. Daniel swallowed hard. I didn't lie to you, Ngozi. I just didn't tell you who I was. I wanted to know what life was like without money, without my father's name, without all the fake friends. He stepped closer. His eyes were wet. And then I met you. You fed me, laughed with me, cared for me, even when I had nothing. Do you know how rare that is? People only see my father's money. You saw me. The market was silent. Even gossiping women leaned in. The drama was too sweet. Ngozi blinked rapidly, her heart confused. His words sounded real. His eyes looked genuine, but her pride held her back. She scoffed. Nice story. You think this is Nollywood, where billionaire falls in love with food seller? A beg. Respect me. Daniel smiled faintly. Respect? Ngozi, you taught me what respect means. You respected me when I looked like nobody. That is why I will never forget you. At this point, Chief Ade cleared his throat. The crowd shifted, remembering his presence. He looked at Ngozi with surprising gentleness. You are a brave woman. My son is stubborn. But meeting you was not a mistake. You saved him when his pride nearly destroyed him. For that, you have my gratitude. Ngozi's jaw dropped again. This was too much for one day. Chief Ade then turned to Daniel. Son, if this is the kind of friend you choose, then maybe there is hope for you. The market gasped. A billionaire father publicly endorsing a food seller? That was gossip for 5 years minimum. Ngozi stood frozen, torn between anger, pride, and a strange flutter in her heart. The moment Chief Ade and Daniel left, the market erupted into noise again. Yo! Mama Rice has entered another level. She will soon open restaurant in Banana Island. A beg, when wedding is happening, let us know so we can buy also Reby. Ngozi rolled her eyes and hissed. But as she sat on her stool later, staring at the empty plate Daniel had once used every day, her heart whispered what her mouth refused to say. She missed him. No matter how angry she was, no matter how betrayed she felt, she missed his clumsy hands, his silly laughter, his way of making her stall feel like the center of the world. And maybe, just maybe, her heart wasn't done with Daniel yet. The market still hadn't recovered from the shock of Daniel's real identity. People's mouths refused to rest. Do you know who you've been buying beans from? That woman fed a billionaire's son. Huh, Lagos is a film. If you blink, you'll miss the episode. A beg, her story should enter Netflix. From beans to billionaire. Ngozi tried to ignore them. She focused on her pots, her laughter, her customers. But deep inside, her heart missed Daniel. She missed his clumsy jokes, his awkward way of fanning the firewood, even his stubborn pride. Sometimes, she caught herself staring at his empty seat, whispering quietly, "You fooled me, but you also made me smile." It was a hot Saturday afternoon when the market heard music first, before they saw anything. At first, it was distant. Faint drums, trumpets, and the sharp cry of talking drums. Traders thought it was one of those noisy wedding processions. But as the sound drew closer, they realized it was different. Bigger, louder, sweeter. The street shook. Drummers pounded. Singers shouted praises. Trumpets blasted so loud that goats scampered under tables. And then came the convoy. Sleek jeeps, a limousine, and even one truck carrying boxes wrapped in golden cloth. The market scattered. Yezu! Who died? Nobody died, oh! Who is marrying? This is not wedding. This is billionaire Walla. Ngozi was standing by her stall when the limousine stopped right in front of her. Her heart froze. The door opened slowly. Out stepped Daniel. He wasn't in a stiff suit this time. He wore a cream-colored kaftan embroidered with gold, his cap matching perfectly. His face glowed with confidence, but his eyes still carried that boyish softness she knew. He walked through the dust, ignoring the shouts, the cameras, the noise. When he reached her stall, he shocked the entire market by kneeling in the dirt. The market screamed. He knelt! A billionaire's son knelt in Ojalegba dust. Somebody hold me. I'm fainting. One woman even tore her wrapper in excitement, running in circles. Daniel's voice rose above the chaos, strong and steady. Ngozi, you gave me food when I was hungry. You gave me shelter when I was lost. You gave me laughter when I thought my life was empty. Today, I want to give you something in return. Not just thanks, not just business, my heart. He pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring that sparkled so brightly the sun felt jealous. The crowd gasped. Ngozi, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Will you walk through life with me? Will you be the woman who shares my table forever? Ngozi's hands flew to her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. She was shaking her head, laughing and crying at the same time. This is madness, Daniel. Madness! Daniel smiled gently. Then it is the only madness I want. The market chanted. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Children clapped, women ululated. Men whistled. Ngozi looked around, embarrassed. Get up, Jair, before you stain your kaftan. This dust is not good for you. Daniel shook his head stubbornly. Not until you answer me. Her heart thudded. She thought of the shame, the gossip, the betrayal. But then she remembered his feverish face when she fed him pepper soup, the way he struggled to wash plates, the shy laughter he brought into her life. Finally, with tears streaming down her cheeks, she whispered, Yes, I'll walk with you. The market erupted into madness. Drums doubled their tempo. People screamed and danced. 200 Nigerian nairas and 500 Nigerian nairas notes rained from the sky. Even Chief Ade, who had stepped out of a jeep, clapped his hands and smiled proudly. When the noise calmed a little, Chief Ade walked forward. His agbada swept the dust regally. He placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder, then on Ngozi's. My son, he said, his deep voice carrying authority and warmth. You have proven stubborn, but today I see your heart. And you, Ngozi, he turned to her. You are no ordinary woman. You gave my son what billions could not buy. Kindness. I welcome you both. The market screamed again. A billionaire blessing a food seller? History had been made. Daniel hugged his father tightly. For the first time in months, there was no anger, no rebellion, just reconciliation. Weeks later, the market gathered for a grand opening. Where Ngozi's wooden stall once stood now rose a beautiful two-story building painted in bright cream and gold. A giant signboard read, Mama Rice Restaurant, where kindness is served. Inside, there were tiled floors, air-conditioned halls, glass doors, and waiters in uniforms. But the taste remained the same. Smoky jollof, spicy beans, sweet plantain. All made with Ngozi's special touch. The ribbon cutting was done by Chief Ade himself. Daniel stood proudly by Ngozi's side, his hand holding hers firmly. The crowd clapped as champagne corks popped and music blasted. From dust to destiny, one old man muttered, shaking his head. Only God can write this kind of script. That evening, after the ceremony, the restaurant buzzed with customers. Laughter filled the air, music played, and even the market women who once mocked Ngozi now sat at the front tables, eating proudly. Daniel insisted on serving Ngozi personally. He carried a plate of rice, beans, stew, and plantain to her table, bowing deeply. Madam Customer, he said with a playful grin. This is payback for all the plates I broke in training. Ngozi laughed through her tears. Daniel, you'll never change. He leaned closer. Exactly. And that's why you love me. The band struck up a high-life tune. Chief Ade danced with the market women. Money sprayed in the air. Children chased the notes, laughing. The whole market turned into one giant wedding rehearsal. And as the camera of life zoomed out, the people whispered one final lesson. The poor woman who fed the billionaire's son found not just love, but a life she never dreamed possible. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.